Oh my God. So when people first get that engagement ring, they get the butterflies, they start planning their wedding. It's all a very, very magical time. But I wish that people spent as much time, if not more, planning their marriage and their married life as they did their wedding. See, especially, I just watched Bridgerton. I jumped on that train. I don't often watch TV, but I did watch that one. And I could not get over how similar it was to growing up as a Pakistani woman. Like your entire life's pinnacle is around getting married. And the moment you get married, people start asking you, oh, when are you going to have a child? And that's it. Like that's all you are raised for. And that is, the most important thing. And I think so often people are just focused on, oh, let's find her a good match, let's make sure she has kids, but they don't actually prepare you for the love and happiness and building that foundation that a marriage should be on. And I think that's why we so often see failed marriages in society, but also just so much struggle within marriages is because we don't talk about it as much as we should. We don't talk about the hard times. You open up social media and you're flooded with photos of vacation pics with Bay or God, the honeymoon phase, or, oh, this is the anniversary with the love of my life, or birthday pictures. But what about the harder stuff? And you guys know that I am not afraid to hold back as far as all of that is concerned. So today I want to talk about marriage. I want to talk about the truths of marriage and some of the ways that I have found and Nosh and I have found to create a very strong foundation and some of the things that we have gone through. Now, granted, I have only been married 5 years, and we have gone through the transition of being, becoming parents together and all of that. And that was really beautiful. And that had its own challenges. So I'm just going to have a very raw and real conversation about marriage today. And then drop any questions you guys have below for me. Hit that like button, subscribe, because I want to be able to go deeper into questions that you guys might have. But let's start with, was my marriage love or arranged? It was 100% love marriage, and actually introducing our families met literally on after our first date. Don't ask how that worked out because I still don't know why, but yeah, literally our parents met each other right away. It was I don't know why, but it worked out for the best. They thought we had been dating for months, and we were like, no, this is our first date, and they didn't believe it. But I was like, no, this is honestly our first date. And it was, a pretty smooth journey as far as getting both of our parents on board. My parents liked him right away, and I believe that his parents pretty much thought pretty well of me right away as well too. So that was not a struggle. Were we dating before marriage? Yes, we were. And I know that that can be quite controversial in the Islamic culture. And, it's something that for me, yes, I would have liked to I just wanted to get to know him prior to the wedding. And so we got engaged exactly after 6 months of dating. And our parents literally met again that first day, since the first date. 6 months after we were engaged, and then a year and a half after that, we were married. And for me, the first 2 or 3 months of marriage were complete marital bliss. I mean, honeymoon period like crazy. I remember rushing home from work just so excited to get to see him. And he was quite the same. It was very puppy dog. Like we were just head over heels. But for me, I had lived very much a princess life in my parents' home. I mean, We always had a maid who would cook and clean for us, and I never really had to manage a household, had to take care of a household. And I think that's one area that I definitely should have been more prepared for going into marriage. I think my mom kept thinking, oh, she'll learn, she'll learn. I did not learn for much, much too late. And so I quickly became overwhelmed with the concept of taking care of a household. I didn't know how to cook, I didn't know how to clean. Guys, I didn't even know how to work the like washing machine and the dryer. My husband had to teach me. And so my husband grew up in the polar opposite of that. He was quite independent. He took care of himself. He had lived on his own for a little bit prior to getting married as well too. So he knew the whole bits and ins and outs of being able to care for himself. And then there became times where, so what I learned about myself is that whenever I go through massive periods of change in my life, especially given that I have anxiety and panic attacks, massive change for me causes panic attacks. So being away from my parents' house, that did cause quite a bit of anxiety and panic attacks. Like just being in such a massive change of environment caused so much anxiety for me. And so anytime my husband and I got into even the smallest argument, I would have a panic attack, and I would say, oh my gosh, we're newlyweds, it shouldn't be like this. And when they say the first year of marriage is the hardest, for me it was, because I had to learn. I'd never lived with anybody else. I had to learn to adjust to living with him, to being with him, to the way that he did things. He's very OCD, very analytical about how things are done. And then you had me, who was just like, never princess, never worried about anything. And so again, the first year was a lot of adjustment. And I would say it crept into the second year too. I think the first year for most people is really when the adjustment happens. But for me, because of like some of the mental health issues that I deal with, it kind of crept into the second year as well too. Now, here's one mistake that my husband and I made in our first year of marriage, which is that I started a business with my husband within the first few months of getting married. So not only are we learning to live together, but we're also learning to work together. And like I said, we could not be any more different in how we do things. I'm very much like the creative, like free spirit thinker, and my husband is, sorry. My husband is very much more so the analytical, organized, OCD. Every single thing is very structured. And so working together became really, really difficult because like we just worked in two different ways. In our startup, this was our subscription box. This was Bumble Brain Box. It was a subscription box for child brain development. It began to take off. I'm really proud to say that we hit over $120,000 in sales within the first 12 months. And that was really, really, really exciting. However, the faster our business grew, the more of a toll it took on our relationship. And so, I think business and relationships work beautifully for some couples. However, in our case, it did not. So we actually ended up selling that startup because one, my health started to take a big hit at that time. But number two, it wasn't worth it for us. Like, I didn't want to continue the business without him because it was something we'd started together. But I knew the toll that it was taking on our marriage, it wasn't worth it. And so since that day, we decided we would never go into business again together because it took all of the fun out of our marriage. It really did. We were constantly talking about work and business, and the stresses of the business would impact us at home. And it just was not fun for us, not at all. And so that was one lesson that we learned for us early on. And again, self-awareness is key because for some couples, marriage and business together, it's beautiful. My parents are an example of that, but for us, it didn't work. Once we sold the business, we re-entered like a honeymoon period where it stopped being about work and we just started to travel and to learn each other and to enjoy that time together. And we loved it and we enjoyed that time period so much. And then we started talking about starting a family. And that was, again, a very, very exciting time. My husband was very hesitant to have children. But when he turned 30, or as he was getting closer to 30, he started becoming more and more open to it. And I remember right before his 30th birthday, 1 week before, I found out that I was pregnant. And that was the most beautiful 30th birthday gift that God could have given us. And Lily is truly, our daughter is truly the light of our life and the joy of our life. But I will say that pregnancy as well as parenthood did impact our marriage as well as anybody can say. We went through the pregnancy hormones themselves. I mean, he was constantly helping me clean up after I threw up all over our house. He was constantly had a bag of snacks. And I think the funniest thing was when we were going on our baby moon, we actually traveled to Barcelona and Venice for our baby moon. And my husband had a whole suitcase packed of snacks for me. And the security guard, he was like, the airport guy, he was like, why do you guys need this many snacks? And my husband looks and points at my belly and he goes, don't ask that, because she's pregnant, she needs these snacks. And sure enough, I cleared through that bag of snacks during our honeymoon big time. And so that was a really funny part of it. But he was very, very, very beautifully caring during the pregnancy. And guys, something about how protective Nosh was of me when we got pregnant was just the most beautiful thing. I mean, from as little as he would stand on the side of the street and he would make me walk towards the grass just to protect me. He was constantly holding my hand. He was constantly making sure I was feeling okay. And I remember when I had the baby, when I had Lily, Nosh started bawling. Like as soon as Lily came out, Nosh was bawling and I thought he was crying because of the baby. But later on he told me no, it wasn't that. It was just he was crying so hard because of what he had just seen me go through. And when they were stitching me back up, when he saw me getting stitched, he just started bawling. And I just thought how beautiful that was, that in such an emotional moment, he was just so considerate of me. And I was like, Nosh, go look at the baby, go take care of the baby. Because, they wheeled her away to clean her up. And he was like, no, I'm not leaving you. And he really put me first in that moment. And that was so beautiful. And then, I mean, he went straight into, I couldn't walk really. My legs were shaking too much for the next 24 hours. He said, you sit still. He was constantly running between Lily and I. And he cared so beautifully for her. And guys, let me tell you, there is nothing more beautiful in this life watching your husband become a father. I mean, it is the most beautiful thing when you see that relationship and you see the man of your dreams then just becomes just elevates so beautifully into that role. It is so incredible. And a lot of people talk about their marriage suffering and struggling after parenthood, but I will say ours has only become stronger. And I think we're rare when I say that. I think most people don't say that. I think the research shows 60-70% of marriages decrease in quality after having a kid. But when I saw my husband become the greatest father, I thought, you know what, I would do anything for this man. I would fight to the end of the earth for this man, because the way that this man is with my child and his child, no one else could be this good. And it made our marriage so strong. And it's like before, when you have your ups and your downs with marriage, you might be like, I'm leaving, I blah blah blah, you might just throw that out there. I truly and honestly cannot imagine my life without my husband now. I feel so close to him. May God protect our union forever. But I I truly feel now stronger than ever. But the one thing that we have struggled with our marriage after becoming parents is going on date nights. We haven't gone on as many date nights, and it's not because my family hasn't offered to watch Lily. They have always offered to watch Lily so that we can go on date nights, but it's just that we end up missing her so much when we're out. And I don't know if we're ever gonna get over that. Um, but we really miss our baby when we're not with her. And so we have to get better about date nights. But there is one thing that we've been doing that's been really helpful. There's two things I think that's been really helpful. One is that Nasha and I began to do yoga together at nights, which when we first got together, when we first started dating, we were doing a lot of yoga. And so we got the mirror fitness, and we were doing a lot of yoga together. Then and we do yoga at nights together. And the second thing is we subscribe to date night inboxes. So I believe it's called Date Night In, and they send you dates. It comes in a box. Actually, you're right behind me, but they come in a box. And once they arrive, everything you need for your date is inside. So we've been doing them after Lily goes to sleep, and that has been really, really helpful. The other area, and I'm being honest, you know, I keep it honest with you, but intimacy, we've struggled with intimacy since Lily's been born. Because I am always so damn tired. Guys, taking care of a kid is exhausting. So once I figure out tips for that, I will certainly share. But if you made it this far, thank you again for watching. I just wanted to share some of the real raw truths of marriage, our journey, as honestly as I could. I know a lot of people look at Nosh and I, especially on social media, and they say, oh, they're couple goals. You guys are so beautiful. I want a marriage just like that. But we've had our fair share of struggles, from me not knowing how to care for a household, from my mental health struggles, from starting a business together and the strains of that, from pregnancy struggles, from postpartum struggles. You know, there's a lot that we have been through. And then even with in-laws, postpartum, I've talked about how I had a little bit of a falling out with my in-laws, but thankfully everything is much, much better there. But that was a huge test for us as well too. And so things have been far from perfect for us in our journey, but there is nobody else I'd rather go through that journey with. Throughout it all, we've simply gotten stronger and stronger. And with every struggle that Nosh and I go through, I am more and more secure and sincere with the fact that this man was my blessing. This man was made for me. And again, I truly pray that our marriage is protected forever. And I think the last thing I'll leave you guys with is people don't fight enough for their marriage. When things get hard, they call it quits. But guys, your marriage is the most beautiful thing you have. Fight for it, and fight for it every day. Love is not something you just fall in and out of. Love is a verb, and you actively choose to do that every day. So if you guys are struggling with your marriage right now, know it's completely normal to have ups and downs, even though social media shows otherwise, and fight for your love daily. Thank you, and once again, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.